on Sheikh Asim Al-Hakim. So he's graduated from the prestigious Al University in Makkah, Saudi Arabia in 1998. At present, he is an imam of a masjid in Jeddah, a role that he's held for the last 20 years, where he delivers the weekly Friday.
32 years.
Right? 32, alhamdulillah, amazing. I think I just got 2 years outdated information. Apologies for that. Sheikh Asim also participates regularly on the Islamic and Hadith. Brothers and sisters who have joined us, please could you mute yourselves because we want to have Sheikh Asim being uninterrupted. So anybody who is joining us, please mute yourselves. The Sheikh also studied for several years the books of the great scholar Sheikh Saleh ibn Uthaymin. May Allah have mercy on his soul. This is not the first time that the Sheikh has collaborated with Ilm Academy and has been part of our events. He's also conducted workshops for us in person in Chennai in the past. We've done Divine Thread, which is Ulum al-Quran, Believer's Castle, that is the fiqh of Salah, Purity 180, the fiqh of Tahara, and also Operation XD, the fiqh of marriage. We're going to commence today's session now, which is making the best out of Ramadan in these times. And these are different times. We were looking forward to the nasiha from the Sheikh, who can tell us how best we can utilize this Ramadan, inshallah. I'll now pass it over to Sheikh to take the session. Just a reminder to everyone, please mute yourselves. We only want to hear the Sheikh at this time. And also, we will be taking questions for the Sheikh at the end. And the way that you can post your questions is through the chat system. We will not be taking questions in between the session. Once the Sheikh has completed the session, answer them after the lecture, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for your patience and
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Ramadan during lockdown, and when you come to think of the things you can talk about, they blow your mind away. Ramadan is one of the pillars of Islam that many of us unfortunately take for granted. We think that because of the so many Ramadans we have witnessed, that it is something that we do out of habit, and rarely we do out of conviction that this is a pillar of Islam. Fasting the month of Ramadan is something that Allah Azza wa Jal said that all deeds are for the son of Adam except fasting. This is for me, and I only reward with it. So when Allah the Almighty says that I, the only one who rewards with it, He took upon Himself the mission of rewarding you for fasting Ramadan. It shows you how important and significant this ritual is. Now, one of the greatest things that we tend to neglect during the month of Ramadan and elsewhere, submissiveness, the issue of being servants to Allah Azza wa Jal. We tend to think that we are masters, not slaves, because He ordered us to do so. So we're neglectful. And this appears when we are out of our comfort zone, when we travel away from our own habitat. Here, you can see clearly whether an individual is a true Muslim or a Muslim on shaky grounds. the great believing that you are a servant of Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you feel that you are a servant in Allah to Allah during the month of Ramadan, you taste the beauty of Ramadan. But when you feel that I have to get this out of my chest, I have to do this and get rid of it, I have to pray Taraweeh and get it done with, I have to fast these 15, 16 hours and get it over with, then you would never taste the beauty of Ramadan. We can spend a lot of time talking about the beauty of night prayer. We can talk about the great reward in fasting, the etiquette of fasting, how fasting is not rewarded if we fail to withhold our tongues from indulging in things that are haram. We can talk about the importance of charity. We can talk about the beauty of the last 10 nights of Ramadan and the glorious night of Laylatul Qadr. We can talk about the great reward in feeding people and helping them break their fast. And this would take us forever. I thought of sharing with you things that we know by default, but we fail to implement in our lives. I thought of sharing with you the basics that would benefit us not only in the lockdown time during Ramadan, but rather in our entire life. I wanted to share with you how a Muslim behaves throughout the whole year, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and how he does not limit himself to seasons that Allah had put throughout the year. So, one of the basics, a beautiful, authentic hadith, may Allah be pleased with him. He said to him, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا ولو أن تلقى أخاك بوجه طلق. He said, do not regard any act of kindness as insignificant, even meeting your brother with a cheerful face. A normal hadith, most of us knows it by heart. Rarely you would find someone understanding the implication of it. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, as he told us about himself, was given the concise of speech. Few words that you can count on your hand. Do not regard any act of kindness as insignificant, even meeting your brother with a cheerful face. This is a motto. This is our symbol and logo that Muslims must abide by throughout their life, that makes them active, positive, effective in their community, always the first to do good deeds. No matter how small and insignificant this is in our eyes, always remember that Allah Azza wa Jal does not look at it in this way. This hadith style of the Prophet ﷺ and of any Muslim following him We tend to focus on what is famous, what is huge, what is mega and big. That's why, how many times should I finish reading the Quran every day or every week or every Ramadan? How many hours should we pray? How much of my quantity instead of quality? And Islam always tells us to focus on quality first. What use is it to pray 1,000 rak'ah without contemplation and submissiveness, while 2 rak'ahs where your heart is present and you don't talk about anything or think about anything while praying them, would ensure you that Allah forgives all of your previous sins. Quality is important. So when the Prophet ﷺ says, do not regard any act of kindness, ma'ruf, we have to define the meaning of ma'ruf. What is meant by ma'ruf? Act of kindness. This is a general word, one of a kind, which indicates anything that Allah loves, and it commands you to be kind to people. Ma'ruf. That's why some ulama define it as, it is a word that the Arabs consider everything that is good in the mind of the people of intellect, and the people of kindness and charity do not reject it or resent it. So it is a word. The common denominator is that Allah loves it. As simple as that. And if you notice, if you read the Quran, if you read the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you would find the greatest act of mercy and kindness from Allah Azza wa Jal, where He actually leads us to things that would give us salvation from hell and admit us to paradise. Almighty is so kind that He did not limit good deeds to a specific deed. So imagine if Allah Azza wa Jal only made the way to Jannah through giving to charity. Me being stingy and loving money, I wouldn't enter Jannah. Imagine if Allah Azza wa Jal only made the way to Jannah is through 3 or 4 hours night prayer. Me being lazy, loving to sleep a lot, would not be able to enter Jannah. Some people are gifted the blessing of fasting, but they are not as successful when it comes to night prayer. Others are gifted the blessing of night prayer, but they can't spend money in the cause of Allah. So Allah the Almighty opened so many doors for you to enter Jannah. He made 7 doors to hell, subhanahu wa ta'ala, but He made 8 doors to paradise, which shows you that His mercy overwhelms His wrath and anger, only if you would make an effort. The Prophet ﷺ gave his examples of deeds that would allow us to enter Jannah. Though if you ask any common person, he would tell you, this is Nothing. Well, what is this? Is Jannah this cheap that you can enter it without hard work? No, it's not cheap. It is expensive, as the hadith says. But Allah made it easy for us. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, while a man was walking on a road, he saw a branch full of thorns on the way of people. So he took it and removed it away from the road so that passers-by would not be harmed with it. Allah Azza wa Jal was thankful to this man and forgave his sins, admitted him to Jannah. Subhanallah. This act could make it or break it, Jannah or not. How many times do we walk and see a broken bottle or glass shattered, and imagine while walking past it that a child of 5 or 6 years who's barefooted walks on it, doesn't see it, and his feet bleed and they're cut open. Yet we never take the time to stop, remove it away from people's way. How much reward Allah Azza wa Jal places on such a deed. Don't count. Just depend on His kindness and mercy. And if you reverse the hadith, if Allah forgives for a man who removes harmful things from people's way, then what is the ruling on a person who puts harmful things in people's ways? I'm not talking about terrorists who put bombs to blow innocent people discriminately. Those are already evil, deviant people who we know that they are the hounds of hell, as the Prophet described them, alayhi salam. I'm talking about normal people, a sister-in-law, a mother-in-law who goes and throws mental bombs between a man and his wife to destroy their marriage. I'm talking about those who use social media to tarnish the reputation of people or to cast their doubts and confusion among them. I'm talking about enemies who target our children and try to divert them from Islam through their evil way. This hadith shows us that community service, when you do something, not for myself, I'm doing it for the entire community, for the entire ummah, is highly appreciated by Allah the Almighty. She saw a thirsty dog. She went down into a well and carried water in her shoe and held the shoe with her mouth and climbed up the well. And there is another hadith, similar hadith, to about a man who did the same act. And she gave the water to the dog. Allah Azza wa Jal forgave her sins for that kind act. A prostitute. How fast we are to judge others, to condemn them to hell, to think that we are better than them. They're sinful people, but we are the righteous, we are the pious, and we are better than a handful of them. Allah forgave her for her act of kindness. This is what you get when you're kind to animals. Just think what you will get when you are kind to humans, when you are kind to Muslims, when you are kind to the closest people living under your roof, and reverse it and think of the punishment that awaits you when you are undutiful to your parents, to your spouse, to your children, and what Allah Azza wa Jal is storing for you. Kindness. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu wassalam, act of kindness. Don't look at it as insignificant. I thought of bringing it with me to illustrate it to you, but I think Ramadan is so close, you all know what a date is. So tamrah, a date, something we open our fasting by eating after sunset. Sweet, beautiful. If I were to cut it into half, take the seed out, and randomly meet you in the street and say to you, here, this is half a date, would you take it? And trust this person giving me this half a date, whether flies fell on it? Imagine, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, protect yourselves from hellfire even with half a date. I can protect and save myself from hellfire with half a date. Don't look down at it. When people come and ask for money, and by the way, this happens a lot in Saudi and in the Arab countries, where you get people begging at the end of the prayer. Most of them are professional beggars, I have to admit. But some might be needy. Allah did not tell us to investigate. I see many people, while they're going out, especially what we consider to be low-class workers, meaning that workers with low wages, their class is VIP class at the side of Allah. But to us humans, when we look at people and evaluate them according to their salaries, such low-paid people never fail to open their wallets. The few riyals there, they take one or two and give it to the poor, regardless whether he's a professional beggar or someone in real need. While the people who are rich, they simply shrug their shoulders and walk by. Akhi, why didn't you give something from what Allah had given you? No, these are professional beggars. Okay, are you looking for real needy people to give them charity? Inshallah, if I meet someone, I will give. And he knows that he will not meet anyone. And he knows that anyone who knocks on his door, he peeps from the hole and evaluating, should he open the door or not? Because most likely this person knocking on my door, whom I do not know, wants money. This is how we evaluate people. Seek protection from hellfire, even if, after that, he says, and a kind word is a charity. So if you don't have half a date to protect you from hellfire, then say a kind word. And is it possible that we are so helpless that we can't even protect ourselves from hellfire with a good word? How many times have we seen people speak arrogantly, speak rudely, do not pay attention to how people feel, and they fail miserably in saying a good word? Some people inflate good deeds out of proportion so that they can justify their failure to do any good deeds. We are professionals in putting obstacles on our way. So, Akhi, why don't you do this? Oh, I can't do that because if I do this, this might happen. And if I do this, maybe the authorities would complain. If I do this, my father would be angry. Sometimes I think of doing something and Allah Azza wa Jal makes a test much difficult for me, so I don't do this or that. So they keep on putting obstacles on their ways, and they would never be positive. Let's assume, hypothetically, that you can't do any of the good small deeds. Well, Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't leave you without a possibility and a chance to be saved from hellfire. Allah Azza wa Jal tells you to refrain from harming people with your tongue and with your hand. That's it. So praying is an act you have to do. Oh, that's difficult. Charity and zakat, it's an act that you have to do and pay. Oh, this is too difficult. I'm tired. Hajj requires your physical ability and attention to Mecca. Don't go around the Kaaba. Don't prostrate and do ruku'. Just simply zip it. Don't eat. Don't drink. Don't do things that break your fasting. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Don't backbite. So you are actually refraining from doing things. And one of the greatest deeds you could do is to refrain from harming others with your tongue or with your actions. Al-Hasan al-Basri was asked about a man being approached by another person whom he hates. Yet this person asks him for something. The man gives the man he hates the thing he was asking for out of bashfulness and shyness, though he hates him. Is he going to be rewarded? Al-Hasan al-Basri said, this is an act of kindness, and no act of kindness go unrewarded. No act of kindness would go unrewarded. Everything is rewarded. Everything is documented. Allah Azza wa Jal does not forget a thing. So many things that we could do, not during Ramadan, throughout our lives, that we always and always overlook. So we end up with only one or two deeds that to us would make it and break it. If I don't pray Taraweeh, Ramadan doesn't have any taste. I missed Ramadan. If I don't give charity, most people are under the wrong conviction that their zakat must be given in Ramadan. This is not right. Yet they all focus and time their zakat to be given in Ramadan. And the poor Muslims suffer the remaining 11 months. We neglect to do. And they're considered to be acts of good deeds, such as answering the salam. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, good morning. No, I said assalamu alaikum. Hello, how can I help you? Akhi, reply to my salam. Say wa alaikum assalam. People rarely think of the reward in exchanging salam, not greetings. Assalamu alaikum between Muslims. Mute your mashallah. We always get interferences from participants through unmuting their microphones. When was the last time you visited a sick person? Well, actually, with the lockdown, you are excused from that, but in normal cases, we rarely go and visit sick people in hospitals or in their homes, not knowing the great amount of good deeds that Allah gives us from the time we exit our homes till the time we return. As the Prophet said, alayhi that he would be harvesting from the fruits of Jannah until he goes back. And 70,000 angels would pray for you until you come back. Following funerals, answering an invitation for a walima or a aqiqah, saying yarhamukumullah when a person sneezes, giving advice to someone who's seeking it, fulfilling someone's oath when he swears that you do something, helping an oppressed, spreading salam, guiding the one who is lost, trying to help Muslims achieve their rights, postponing and delaying someone who took a loan from you, but he's unable to pay back, being dutiful to your parents, being kind to your spouse, taking good care of upbringing your children, leading someone who's blind and showing him the way, educating someone who's ignorant and not knowing what is right from religion, yet we always find it difficult to fulfill and to do because we only think of big things, mega things. And when we fail in achieving them, we would have failed in the small things and the big things. But if we took it step by step and started with the trivial things in our view, with the small things that are insignificant to us, we will find that this paves the way and the path to doing big things. There's a beautiful hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, there are 40 things. The highest of them, imagine 40 things, the highest of them is giving your sheep or goat, lending it to your neighbor to milk and return it back to you. So they only use the milk. It's something you lend them. So this is the highest thing. And you can imagine what 39 things come underneath that. The Prophet said about these 40 things, that no one does a thing from these 40 anticipating the reward only from Allah Azza wa Jal and believing in the consequence of such good reward, except Allah would admit him to Jannah because of that one thing of these 40, the list of 40 things. And I believe Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar, may Allah have mercy on his soul, listed it on his book, or in his book Fath al-Bari. 40 things. The highest, the most difficult, the most expensive is to lend your goat to your neighbor who's in need so that he can milk it and drink the milk and return the goat as it is to you. So there are so many insignificant things in Islam that if we do them, we can enter Jannah. Calling others to Islam. Imagine the deficiency that Muslims have in calling others to Islam. When was the last time someone accepted Islam through you? Knew little Arabic, if any. And every time he passes by this Filipino Catholic worker who used to work in a gas station, and this guy would say to him, Islam fi kwayis. You know how they speak, very broken Arabic. Islam is good. Islam fi kwayis. Islam fi kwayis. That's all. The Filipino guy says, every single day, the guy says this phrase and moves on. Until I was intrigued. Let me search about this Islam that he says, fi kwayis, there is good in it. And when I started searching about Islam, Allah opened my heart to becoming a Muslim and I accepted Islam. Now, who would have thought that such a negligible, insignificant word given by this worker who is low paid but high grade at the side of Allah Azza wa Jal. So many little things we can do in life that would erase and elevate our levels in Jannah, yet we fail to do that. Why? We want big. And we fail in doing big and fail in doing small. The Prophet ﷺ told us to look at the small things that people overlook. A woman must not underestimate a gift to her neighbor, and the neighbor has to also not underestimate or look down at a gift given to her by her neighbor. Even if it was the hoof of a sheep, not the leg, only the end of the leg, the hoof, which has no meat in it, which is worth nothing. But still the Prophet says, don't underestimate it. Give it. That enslaves your heart. The Indians have a beautiful habit. Unfortunately, we Arabs don't have. I've been visited by so many brothers from India, whether it's Mumbai, it's Delhi, it's Chennai, it's Kerala. Whenever they visit me or meet me, they always have a small gift, whether it's some halwa, some sweets. I'm diabetic, by the way. I don't know if it's a gift or their intention is with Allah. They give you a small perfume bottle. They give you. It's a beautiful habit. Shows the generosity, shows their kindness. And the Prophet says that exchanging gifts increases the love between the Muslims. He said, tahadu, tahabbu. You will become close to one another. These small things people don't pay attention to. The charity that you give. Remember half a date? It was reported that Mother Aisha was in her home and a beggar knocked the door. The maid came and said, Mother Aisha, there is a beggar outside. We have nothing in our home except these 2 pieces of grapes. 2 pieces. She said, give it to the beggar. So the maid said, what would a beggar do with 2 pieces of grapes? It's nothing. So she said, it's nothing to you. But at the side of Allah, Allah says in the Quran, so whoever does an ant's weight of good will see it. فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. The weight of an ant, if an ant walks on the scale, how much would it show? 0.0001 gram? You will see that on the day of judgment, as Allah does not neglect anything subhanahu wa ta'ala. In short, I've wasted your time. How many times you should recite the Quran? How do we fast? What to do with our children during the month of Ramadan? All of this is good. And we can spend endless hours talking about. But if we succeed in benefiting of this 40 plus minutes talk and to open our eyes on the great venues in front of us, to get closer to Allah and to elevate our levels in Jannah through negligible things, insignificant things, so we think. If we manage to change our perception to looking at things as they really are, wallahi, that would be the best lesson to be learned and implemented in this coming month of Ramadan. Don't overlook a small sambusa you sent to your neighbor. Now with the lockdown, the welfare of people is in great danger. People who rely on their day-to-day wages and they have not been paid for 2, 3, maybe 5 weeks now, and the business is down. They want food. Negligible things that you can do in your community to give helping hand. Maybe with a phone. Somebody complained to me a couple of days ago, and I don't have money, alhamdulillah. So I just posted something in a very minute group of real good close friends of mine, and I never ask money for anyone. And in a couple of minutes, 3,700 riyals came in seconds. Each one calling me privately saying, I've transferred 1,000, I transferred 500, I did this, I did that. And I called the imam who was asking, because this imam had 10 kids and he depended entirely on taking students from their homes to school and university as a driver. He's an imam for 25 years in my neighborhood. I know him personally. Calling me saying, Sheikh Asim, you can see what's happening. I don't know what to do. And in seconds. And I have not even paid a penny, alhamdulillah, but I'll get the reward of the 3,700 riyals that would give this man room to live for another month and a half, eating and drinking with his kids. So I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that He makes this Ramadan the best Ramadan we ever witnessed. I pray to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to uplift this pandemic and to cure those who are infected and to restore the favors and blessings upon us that we used to take for granted and not appreciate. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to keep us all safe with our spouses, children and parents and siblings, and to help us pass this crisis and to come out of it stronger with the grace of Allah, and Allah knows best. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد.
Jazakallah khairan for the session. Very, very beneficial. Alhamdulillah. Ameen to your dua at the end.